Hi, I'm Ashley Hawkins and I'm the manga librarian. And today we're going to talk about manga for kids. So we're talking about the K through 5 elementary school grade band. So we're talking about the littles, the youngins, the itty bitties, those guys, the ones that are tiny. Um, so we're talking about them because, quite honestly, you have been asking me about how to buy them manga. And I would like to tell you how to buy them manga. Um, so what I'm going to do is I want to avoid just giving you a list. Because if I just give you a list, you're going to go and you are going to buy the list. And then you are not going to think about it again. Which is the natural inclination. Like, okay, I did it. I got the manga. But the thing is, you really should be selecting for your community. And I have a list. It's down below. You can always just scroll right past me and ignore me. But I would like to give you some understanding and some tools to be able to find things yourself. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about who's actually publishing stuff for kids, what are some common themes that are found in like the children's manga, and what are a few things you should keep an eye out for depending on your community. Because Japan is not America, and therefore things are different. There's different social mores and understandings and things, so we'll just kind of roll on out from there. One thing I am going to say is that I am a high school librarian. And most of my background has been in working with teens. Now I am certified as a K through 12 librarian. I have done some collection development for the elementary level in terms of manga specifically. I am part of the I do an animation and illustration CCD for New York City. And so I do have some understanding of collection developing for elementary school students, but quite honestly, I haven't really worked with them since I was a substitute back in the early 2000s. Like we're talking 2007 is when I was a substitute, so it's been a hot minute. So I don't necessarily have the one-on-one experience with the tiny people. Most of my career has been in middle and high school. 99% of my career has been in middle and high school. So I just want to make that clear. I'm coming more as a manga expert than as an elementary school expert. So even the list that I offer you, you should look at each of the titles and make determinations based on your community or your school, and just use your brain, because you're all super smart. You're librarians. You have it. You've got it. You have the power. But I'm going to just, like I said, offer what I can, and I think this should at least give you a track to put your elementary powers on. So there we go. Um, so let's jump into it. All right. So your first question is, where do I go get this stuff? Who's even publishing it? And the honest answer is that all of the manga publishers probably have something to offer in terms of manga for kids. They all have at least one license that you can probably buy. But there are two publishers that are kind of three publishers who are kind of on top of it the most. And the one who is the most on top of it, I would probably say, is Viz. That shouldn't be a shock at all, because quite honestly, Viz is the biggest publisher of manga at this point, outside of Japan. They're very powerful. They have a lot of licenses, they have a lot of access. They got it. So, Viz has an imprint called Viz Kids. For some reason, their website doesn't have a landing page for the Viz Kids imprint, but it does exist. They are publishing, they do have titles that are for kids. I don't know what's quite going on with the Viz Kids imprint, if they're like swallowing it into like Viz Media or one of the other imprints, but for some reason, like I said, it's not, they don't have a landing page, they don't have anything that like separates it. I will say the Viz Kids imprint does publish a lot of stuff that is like media adjacent, so it's a lot of Pokemon, they have a lot of Zelda titles, and there's more there than you think there is. So Viz is like good. I will say, if you're searching on like Follett, you are not going to find it delineated as Viz Kids though. It'll just say Viz. They don't break it down by imprint. They also don't do it with like the Shonen Jump or the Shoujo Beat or any of the other imprints within Viz. It's always just Viz Media LLC. So, I mean, it would be helpful if it did, but it doesn't. And like I said, I'm not even sure if like what's going on there. But you can look at the cover, and the cover will say Viz Kids on it. So there is that. It's in the corner. It says Viz Kids. Like I said, you'll see it on the Pokemon titles. Viz is a good one to start with. Kodansha publishes quite a bit, but they don't have anything that separates them. But they do publish things like Cheese Sweet Home, and Yuzu the Pet Vet. So those are two like heavy hitting, very popular children's series. They publish a lot of stuff that is animal adjacent, and I think that's because, quite honestly, the animal titles circulate well. Circulate well is our term. They sell well. They do well at market. There's also other things that they publish, but I think that's one of the reasons why they like publish things like Cheese Sweet Home, but they don't really market it as children's, even though it's popular with children, and it's made for children, partially because they can see the all ages appeal. So that's part of the problem, is that a lot of these things will get marked as all ages, and part of it's a marketing tactic to sell books to all ages. And so it makes it hard for you as the collection developer to know, is this actually for kids, or is this actually for all ages? So there are quite a few manga that would be marked as all ages, but really are for older audiences. Just when you read the humor, you know that the jokes will go right over the kids' heads. You know. Or there are things that look like they should be for kids, and they're not. So My Roommate is a Dino. That looks like it should be for kids. It's got a cute dinosaur, but there's quite a bit of drinking in it, and it has jokes about being a young person, like about being in like your 20s. So you're not, that's not really for kids. That even though it looks like, if you picked it up in a store, you might think like, oh, this looks like it's for kids. Maybe I should get this. It looks like it might be for kids. This isn't helped any by the fact that Overdrive has indexing that doesn't equate to the actual title level. So like, I recently did some purchasing and I was looking for elementary level stuff, and they had like Cheese Sweet Home marked as adult, and it's not adult. It should have been marked as juvenile, because now I have to change the content access level after I've purchased it. So you just have to keep all of these things in mind as you're purchasing, and you need to be really cognizant because the metadata doesn't quite match up. According to Overdrive, this is actually because of the publishers. The publishers send over the wrong metadata. I'm just saying, Overdrive, if you're watching, I'm about to have a couple months off. My freelance rates are very competitive. I'll sit there and fix your metadata. I took a metadata class when I was in library school. I'll fix it if it'll save everybody headaches. I can go through all your manga and fix it. Just saying. That also goes for Comics Plus. Various entities have metadata issues when it relates to manga. Let me do the leveling. Trust me. I'm a great leveler. Anyway, this is not what this is about. So there are things that make it very challenging, and so and not to mention, now as we are more digitally facing, you actually can't find the publisher ratings as easily as you once could. Viz puts them on their site. The other big publisher of kids manga is Tokyopop. This is mostly because Tokyopop really couldn't get any other licenses until fairly recently. They didn't really have access to much. People didn't really trust them with their licenses. So they rebuilt that. They did a lot of rebuilding trust by taking on a lot of kids' licenses, particularly Disney licenses. Somehow they got in with Disney, and they were Disney's main publisher for a while. That being said, Viz has recently swooped in and started publishing Disney stuff, so I don't know what's going on with Tokyopop's relationship with Disney, but it seems to be ending. They still have the licenses for various things, like Kilala Princess and other titles, so they're still in print and publishing them, but recently Viz has been the localizer for Disney's newer titles that have honestly heavier hitting mangaka than Tokyopop has had. Arina Tanemura did the Frozen 2 manga adaptation, so I guess, I don't know, I guess Disney just wanted Viz to do it. I don't know. Things are very fraught whenever Tokyo Pop is involved, but they are somebody who has published kids manga. They are doing better than they have in the past. I will say, if you want the Tokyo Pop titles, it's almost better to have the Comics Plus subscription, which includes the Tokyo Pop titles, than it is to have the physical volumes. And that has a lot to do with, first off, the printing quality of Tokyo Pop. They will fall apart really quick. You'll find it hard to, particular volumes are out of print, so there can be gaping holes in series. So going the digital route, you'll get more bang for your buck if you go Comics Plus with Tokyo Pop. I've heard that their print quality has increased within the past year, so that's one thing, but honestly, they haven't been publishing as much kids stuff recently. So the kids stuff is going to be older prints. They've been shifting a bit more towards Boys Love, which is also why I've mentioned them last, because I think they're moving away from the kids stuff now that they're starting to get licenses that they didn't have access to before. The other publishers have things here and there, but not the same level. I am going to say that if you are an elementary school librarian who desperately wants more kids manga, you need to advocate for it. There is kids manga out there. There is a ton of kids manga in Japan. I just know this for a fact. I've been in Book Off. I've seen the section. I've seen the Kodomo section. I just know there is a ton of stuff. And you too can have all of this stuff and offer it to your patrons. But the publishers need to know that you even want it. Because the thing is, they do reach out and they do ask, what do you want? And what happens is, all of us manga readers, we all turn around and go, we want things for people our age. Because we're all in our 20s and 30s and 40s. And maybe even older. Like, we're all grown-ups, or at least the people who have like social media presence or who have voice and everything. And then kids aren't, like an 8-year-old kid is not on Twitter, I hope, to answer a reader survey about what it is they want. We have to advocate for them having that. So I've started putting on like reader surveys that I would like to see more kids manga, because I know there's a need and a drive for it. But it needs to be more than just me. Start talking to publishers, follow publishers, see when they have reader surveys up, see what the conversation is. When they publish new titles, when you see something that's for kids, speak out and say, yes, finally a new kids title. They listen to that type of stuff. They want to know, and we are a purchasing power, so our insights are worth something. Some things to keep in mind if you are purchasing manga for kids. There are just some things that are going to be culturally different, and you might want to just keep an eye out for them. I'm going to say a lot of what gets published over here and is marketed as kids generally won't have all of this, but if you are being a little bit more free-floating and you're taking things that are all ages and you're saying, well, I think kids could get something out of this, or I think this could be for kids. If you're making that determination on all ages titles, then here are some things to just kind of keep in mind. The first is that childhood nudity is very differently treated in basically all of East Asia. It's just very normal. The child body is not supposed to be sexualized. That doesn't mean that there aren't issues of sexualization of children. Shotokan and lolikan are a thing, but generally speaking, there is just, those are something separate from just normal depictions of children in everyday situations. So remember that communal bathing is very common. We talked about this in the fan service video. So communal bathing is very common. And oftentimes those type of scenes will be for comedy purposes. This actually happens quite a bit in Gundam, of all things. And part of it's the fan service because usually it's the female character who's like taken on the caregiver role of the children who happen to be on the ship. And so you have a chance to see her naked as she's bathing the children. And the reason why you get a chance to see her naked is because the children are rambunctious and they're running around and they're completely nude and they're being disobedient. And them being naked is funny. It's not sexual, it's not for titillation purposes. She's the female character is there to be the sexualized bit. But it's very common for children to be in bathing contexts. If it's a slice of life manga, then you might see it. It's actually a way of showing bonding. You actually see it in My Neighbor Totoro. There's a bathing scene. You'll see depictions of the full human body on a child that you would not be able to see at all on an adult. So genitals might be present on a little boy. These are just things that are normal. Also, bathroom humor is very common. Poo or unko is actually considered lucky in Japan if it's that perfectly coiled poo. That's actually why we have a poo emoji, by the way, is because of Japan. So poo is a perfectly formed unko is supposed to be lucky. So if you have a poo, if you poo and it looks like that, it's lucky. So there's a lot of bathroom humor, and there's actually even mascots that look like poo, and there's like all this stuff. So you'll see some bathroom humor. Depending on your community, there might be parents that might be completely scandalized if they see that. There are some people who might faint. Butts are normal. They find butts funny. Butts are very, like I said, butts are very normal. It's very normal for kids' butts to be out. So there's just certain things about the body that are different. Just be aware of them. Like I said, it really depends on your community. I know like in Crayon Shin-chan, there's definitely like various scenes that like deal with these things, but also like Crayon Shin-chan is so cartoony looking. If you have an Asian community, then it'll be very easy for you to have like Crayon Shin-chan. Nobody will even blink an eye, but I can see in like a Mormon community somewhere, they might not be cool with it. So that's why I say you really have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. So some titles, I'm gonna zip through kind of quickly. Yuzu the Pet Vet is like always a recommendation. It's the story of a little girl who goes to live with her uncle, and he runs a local animal hospital. She's always been scared of animals, but then she actually overcomes her fear in order to try and help out at the hospital. And the manga is all about her learning more about animals and how to take care of them. So that one is really great because, you know, it's a kid protagonist. She's learning and growing. There's lots of really cute animals. It's a really great series for kids. I always recommend Cheese Sweet Home. That one's an easy one. Story of a cat who comes to live with the family and just their everyday interactions. Sugar Princess Skating to Win is the story of a girl learning to skate. And that is a fun, that one's a really pretty girls shoujo manga that is kids appropriate. Yokai Watch you absolutely should have, especially if you have a Muslim community. Yokai Watch is actually very popular in the Middle East. I've had Bangladeshi and Yemeni students who were huge fans of Yokai Watch. It apparently airs on television over there, and it is basically as popular as Pokemon. So super popular. There's always Yotsubato. Yotsubato always comes up on lists about all ages or middle grade or elementary. Yotsubato is the safest manga ever created. So it's absolutely one you should read. Leave It to Pet is one that I think is super fun, or PET, which is the story of a 9-year-old boy who recycles a plastic bottle into a robot that is designed to protect him from all danger. When he tries to protect this little boy, he actually causes all sorts of problems. So it's a lot of fun. It's super wacky. It's a good one to have. Sanrio titles are always super popular, so Fluffy Cinema Roll is one you should check out. These are just a few recommendations. There are a ton more on the list down below. Go check those out. Those are kind of, like I said, my recommendations for what you can add to your collection. And I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, just let me know. You can always reach out to me on social media or through the comments section, whatever. I'm here, happy to answer questions. I hope this gave something to those of you who have been curious or wanting to know more about this level of manga. My next video is going to address middle grade, which I find to be the trickiest of the lot. I think you know when something's for kids and you know when something's for older teens. You don't always know when something's for middle grade because middle grade really fluctuates depending on where you are. So that's where I'm going next. I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye.